Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first collaborative and online event. We are excited here to have Love for Immigrants virtual art healing speaker series and exhibit. My name is Marifel Rodriguez. I'm the founder, and Love for Immigrants is a social space for immigrant support. It aims to connect immigrants to their communities as respected, loved, and heard individuals by sharing their narrative through art and storytelling. And today we are excited to have fiber mixed media artist, Marifel Bermudez. Marifel, go ahead and would you be able to describe yourself and your work a little bit further?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Marifel Bermudez, and I am a local fibers and mixed media artist based in Hyattsville, Maryland, a sister city to Washington, D.C. So most of my work is very saturated. In terms of mixed media, I work with a lot of textures, whether it's application of paints or different fiber pieces on a textile or tapestry. I incorporate a lot of sewing into my work if it's possible, whether it's the application of fabric on wood or, as I said before, just weaving.
Thank you for that. And when I saw Marifel's work by the People's Fair by Halcyon House, I was really impressed and taken aback by the use of colors and fibers and different kinds of weaving techniques. So that's one of the major things that I was uplifted personally by. So we'll go into a question related to that. Could you discuss a little bit about your signature look and use of colors and what that means to your work?
Okay, yeah. So I've noticed that all of my work over time has had like a central theme, and that's really, and this is my motto that I push forward with my name is form, fibers, and color. In addition to my weaving, I'm also trained in digital fabrication, so that's where the form comes in. Yeah. I'm really interested in 3D printing in any way it could be an asset to my work or the focal point of my work. But for the most part, most of my work is based off of color and texture. Whenever I work with new pieces, I always decide on a color palette, and that's where color comes into play when it comes to communicating what I want to get across. So methods when it comes to colors, choosing color in my work, I have these paint samples. I think everybody's seen those from Home Depot, and I think as I work, it's always transformative when it comes to picking textures and picking colors. I think that's the beauty when it comes to my tapestries, is that I don't really ever know the end result. It's just a work in progress as you go, decision making. And I think that's what captivates me with my work, is that it's not really a planned thing. And I really like that.
Thank you for that. It's really interesting to find out what perspective you come from. Some artists plan a lot and research a lot, and some artists are more spontaneous. And it's, all great. And so it's great to hear your personal process. Moving to a little bit of a different question, where do you find yourself within the intersection of art, healing, and the immigrant experience?
Okay. So my background is Filipino. Both my parents are immigrants from the Philippines. I believe they came to the United States. I won't say the exact year, but both my parents came when they were 32. So we've been here for some time. And okay, so most of my tapestries, the act of weaving is inspired through different Filipino techniques, Filipino weavers techniques. My take is more modern, but Filipino weaving is very tight, and the weft in the weave is more compact than compared to my works, but I think it's the meditative act of making tapestries. Also, I try to break out of the traditional square loom. So what's also really freeing about my process is that sometimes I create handmade looms, whether it's circular or hexagonal shape. When it comes to being an artist and seeing art as a healing aspect, and also a daughter of two immigrants, it's really humbling to find myself in that intersectional part. So growing up, I was a trained classical pianist. My parents put me in piano lessons, so music has a really big part of my appreciation. Before I became a mixed media fiber artist, I was, of course, a pianist. And then when I became more interested in the visual aspects of art, I shifted over to performance art. And that's where the whole fibers came in, and I started sewing clothes and putting them on and dancing to, it's the same kind of approach. Nick Cave was a big inspiration to my work. So his sound suits were a big inspiration to how I approached my work. First it was the colors and the musics and all the aspect of the performance art, and then I shifted more to the visual part. When it came to the weaving aspect of my tapestries, that alone is meditative, and I love the process. As I've said earlier, it's never really planned. I sit with the fibers I decide on, and I just grab and go, and it becomes a masterpiece in its own. With the techniques, as I've had a more modern approach. I don't have access to like a loom that you can pull for the weaver, but as I said, the act of it is more so mirroring what I've learned in my culture.
Wow, that's really special to
Mm-hmm.
hear both the parts of you that are unique to the work, and bringing in a modern touch, and the parts of your work that is based on your parents' culture, and in a way giving it, it leaving its legacy with you in a whole nother country.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go a little bit into how other ways, if at all, that art has been healing for you, or in a way, what does art healing mean to you?
Okay. I think the decision to be in, so there was this huge, for me personally, there was this huge what's the word, there was a milestone where I recognized with myself where I made the decision I wanted to be an artist. I was, of course, enrolled in being a pianist. I played the flute too, and so all I knew was music. And I think more so my visual aspect of art was encouraged as a hobby. So I think when I got old enough and I started to, pave my own pathway, I think that when I said out loud I wanted to be an artist, the most vulnerable parts of me came out. That was something that like I harbored. I was like, oh, it's just a hobby and I just enjoy it. I don't know if this is a, I don't know. But I think I was searching for reassurance once I made that decision. And once I decided I wanted to become a full-time artist one day, I found that within my work, it spoke for itself. Everything started to fall in its place when I started to practice my craft. um, I I started to practice my craft, and I think the label artist, is a very powerful thing to claim, but it's very broad. So as I started to practice my craft, and I've explained earlier about the process of how I was a musician to a performance artist to a mixed media artist. Yeah, as the time went, my finding myself was self-explanatory in the timeline of how things were supposed to happen. So to this day, I work at a museum, the Prince George's African American Museum, by day, and I always have this joke by at night where I'm like, by day I'm a marketing gallery coordinator, but at night I'm an artist. So and um, I enjoy that division of time for myself. Like I always tell myself, I have 24 hours in a day, just like everybody else. So, you have to, I made a decision where I've had to carve out time after my 9 to 5 job to make time to be an artist, because that's what makes me feel full. And also carve out time for self-care. I think it's really imperative in my world to carve out time to practice my craft, because it's just my essence. I have to practice my craft, or I don't feel like I'm exercising my true self. When it's come, art has played a really big role over the years when it comes to just finding my identity and just healing, all the things that I guess everybody encounters, just trivial things, whether it's finding your identity or is this something I want to invest my time in, or because I think once you start chugging towards one really big goal that you've decided that's the center of what you're about, it's a big decision. Yeah, so when I went to school for art, I think I was still finding that medium ground of what kind of artist I wanted to be. I don't think I found my footing in the art world until after my undergrad. A lot of my undergrad was very experimental. If I were to show you my undergrad portfolio, it is a lot of performance pieces, a lot of video, and then in the last year since I've graduated from Towson University, a lot of my work has been things that are physical to the touch, like whether it's tapestries or paintings. And then that moves on to more of my concept. So a lot of my works have to do with color and presence. Sometimes, so I've created tapestries that are representative of flags, or like mood boards. That's what I try to play in with the colors. A lot of my color palettes are very vibrant, so most of the moods I'm trying to communicate are very playful, uplifting. If it's not very saturated, then it's like a neutral earth tone, which is more so that homey vibe. That's why I say like physical to the touch, to grab. I really like the aspect of holding things. I think that's what makes people feel safe in my aspect. You're able to hold and grasp things. So I think creating art where people feel like it's personable to hold and grasp and display in the comfort of their creative space, home, is great. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to surprise you with 2 other questions before our closing one. the first, since you have such a musical background, the first one is, what's your favorite song and why? And which one of your art pieces gives you a similar experience?
Um, so I've mentioned that I'm a classically trained pianist, specifically at 12 years. So there's these regional competitions called piano guilds. And the premise of the piano guilds is to memorize 13 classical pieces. And one of my favorites, particularly one of my last years of competing, was Claude Debussy's Erebus No. 1. And that's one of my pieces. It's called Erebus No. 1. It features like a Victorian frame with I would say a earth tone color palette. Um, so that project is about 60 by 90. I might be scaling it down, honestly. But it was my peak quarantine project. A lot of my, decided to tackle that piece, and I handmade the loom, which was, again, a part of the big process. But I challenged myself to play that song if I could bear it on loop. I mean, it's one of my favorite songs, so I could listen to it on loop. But I challenged myself to at least listen to it once while I worked on the piece day by day or on loop. And I found myself evaluating myself in third person while I was weaving and listening to this piece and just looking at the piece in front of me. I also challenged myself to do a time lapse of what that would look like. And there's a lot of aspects to that piece. So it's the act of creating this piece as a tribute to my whole music portion of myself, because it's still a part of me. So that's one thing, is deciding to make a piece that's tributing to this one soul song. 2, of course, exercising my craft. And 3, me recording it was also a decision to make it as almost like a performative aspect. And I'm in the middle of editing it right now to make the time lapse, but I can see myself like listening to the song and the runs. It's great. But that piece is something that's really personal to me, because it's also exhibiting both aspects of me, which is the music part, music trained part of me, and the artist in me.
Wonderful. I'm glad I asked that question because there's so much there that you thought about. It's almost like the question was meant for you.
Yeah. It's great.
So this is our second to last question before we wrap up. Has there ever been a time that you used art to create awareness about a social or political issue, or even just simply to process any difficult emotions or situations you were dealing with?
Yes. Okay, so I mentioned that color plays a lot in my tapestries. And this question more so goes for my tapestries as of lately. As you know, June is Pride Month. So I'm a part of the community, and having my parents be immigrants, and them, I guess, seeing sexuality boundaries as more traditional. I think more so that this is a more modern take. Of course, parents out there, my parents are trying to see eye to eye to it, but at the end of the day, I'm still living under their household, and I must be respectful of that. So when it comes to my art, and I have friends that have faced the same thing that I have, I see it as a safe I create tapestries that represent flags across the LGBTQIA community. And I've created flags that represent tapestries, or tapestries that represent flags. And I've commissioned some of these, and the feedback that I've gotten was really humbling and heartwarming to see that people feel safe to hang these in their room, even though the space surrounding them isn't a safe space. So yeah, the feedback I've had is just really heartwarming. Some of the feedback I've had when I've commissioned some of those tapestries during Pride Month, people have told me, you know, this is great, this is something like I can hold, and like my parents won't suspect that it's just, you know, as opposed to just hanging your pride flag, you know, as it is, sometimes it's not acceptable. And when people see a tapestry, I think they don't think twice about it, because it has the quality of the texture, has such a homey and comforting, it emits like a home vibe. And I don't think that whether it's parents or people that don't accept you for your given sexuality, they don't think twice about it as it being a flag. But the person who it's spoken for knows that. And I think that's great that I can help out people in their personal space. And it's a piece of art that they can have forever, even past when they find a more safe space for themselves. I've definitely done it for myself. I have a tapestry flag, and I think it's great. And I think that's something I would like to push more in the future, whether it's like home-sized flags, or even like little pennant flags for, I don't know, your car.
That's beautiful, creating a safe space for people in the LGBTQ plus community, even though the surrounding area is not as safe as they have wished, is just such a beautiful act to gift of your work to them, to your commissioners. Great story there. Let's go to our last question.
Okay.
Unless you have any other thoughts before our last question, we can open up the floor for that as well.
I think we're ready.
Hmm.
I said, I think we're ready.
You're ready? Okay. So, what is the legacy you would like to leave behind in your work?
Um, okay, that's a loaded question. Okay, so I think in terms of my work, I want to create, I've noticed with my work, I've been growing in terms of size in the canvas. My piece Erebus #1 is probably one of the larger pieces that I've created. And I want to keep expanding on that. When it comes to my legacy, I want people to look at my tapestries and say, that's Marifel's work. It be recognizable to the eye. I want to be able to display my work in places where people come and go, coffee shops, airports. And I think it's great that people still welcome my work into the comfort of their home. I think that's really special, to create work that people feel is fitting to their lifestyle at their home. My legacy, I really want my work to be tied to comfort and home. I think that's my central point. The reputation that tapestries have are like home decor, very, in my opinion, very home decor, very tend to be bohemian approach. And I think I want to take a new take on that and create tapestries that are vibrant, playful. There's one out there for everyone. And as I've said, I think that that statement of a tapestry being out there for everyone is pretty broad, whether it's a tapestry that represents your sexuality, right? Whether it's a tapestry that represents your culture, whether it's a tapestry that just matches the sheets to your, I don't know, your bed sheets. It's a really broad thing, and it could be really, it could be really deep, or it could just be another piece of home decor. And I think in my approach of my work, it first started to be an emotional approach because it was a healing thing for me. But for people who follow my art, or people who want to purchase my art, or just have that physical to touch tapestry, or mixed media piece, it doesn't have to be so serious for them. And there's that option. I think it speaks for itself. And I think in the colors and the colors and the textures of the pieces speak for itself. To, if a viewer sees it, you know, oh, it's a tapestry, or oh, that tapestry speaks to me, and so on. And I think that's what I want to. That's the footprints I want to leave for myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. On that last note there, for your artwork to be available to every kind of person out there, almost customizable in a way. We'll end it with that, and may all of you watching, immigrants, children of immigrants, migrants, people in between, allies, may you have a healing journey. I hope that the concepts, the personal experience of Marifel inspires you today. And thank you, Marifel, for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.